Well, let's unpack this. What if I told you there's this multi-billion-dollar market, and it's not just, growing, but like absolutely soaring. And it's all driven by, well, our changing lifestyles and, let's be honest, a craving for something pretty much universally loved. We're talking about the global milk chocolate market. So our mission today is basically to give you a shortcut. We want you to be really well informed on this delicious topic. We're pulling out the most important insights, the key figures, maybe some surprising facts from our source material, which is the Global Milk Chocolate Market Insights 2021-2033 Trends and Forecasts Report based on data from Cognitive Market Research.
Yeah, and what's really illuminating about this data is how it shows more than just our collective sweet tooth, right?
Right.
It reveals these broader global economic shifts and honestly some fascinating innovation trends happening in the background. So we'll be looking at the whole picture, basically from 2021 all the way through the projections for 2033, trying to understand what's really driving these numbers.
Okay, so the overall picture, it's actually pretty compelling. Get this. In 2021, the global milk chocolate market was valued at a staggering $52.2 billion. Then, fast forward just a couple of years to 2025, and it's projected to hit $63.5 billion. But wait, there's more. By 2033, we're looking at a market pushing nearly $94 billion. That's $93.961 billion to be exact. And it's growing steadily at a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of just over 5%. 5.02%, actually.
Right, and that sustained global growth, it isn't just happening by accident. The source material really emphasizes why. It points to essentially three interconnected core drivers. First, there's just this rising consumer demand for, indulgent treats, comfort food, basically. Second, you've got expanding middle-class incomes, especially in developing economies. More people can afford these little luxuries. And third, there's continuous product innovation. Think new flavors, different bar sizes, maybe ethical sourcing becoming more important. So the question that immediately pops up is, how do these factors play out differently across different regions?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm curious about. Does everyone approach this, indulgence the same way? Or are there like distinct regional cravings? Let's dive into those regional dynamics, see how this global demand actually translates locally. Okay, where should we start? How about Asia Pacific? It's showing some of the most dramatic shifts. This region, already a big player, right? Over $9.4 billion back in 2021. It's projected to surge, really surge, to over $19.3 billion by 2033. And it boasts the strongest overall annual growth rate, the highest CAGR among all regions. We're talking more than 6%, 6.157% to be precise.
This region truly is a growth engine for milk chocolate. It's incredible. Take China, for instance. It's projected to more than double its market size, growing at over 7% annually. That's a 7.044% CAGR. But what's maybe even more fascinating is India. It's showing even more rapid expansion. Its market is also projected to more than double, with an impressive annual growth rate topping 7.1%. That's 7.17%, the highest individual country rate mentioned.
Wow, India at over 7% annual growth.
Yeah.
That is quite remarkable. What's driving that particular surge? Is it just like population numbers, or is there something else going on?
Well, it's definitely more nuanced than just population size. The source suggests this rapid expansion in India is fueled by a significant rise in disposable income, particularly among a younger, digitally savvy demographic. They're increasingly adopting Western consumer habits. And chocolate companies, both the big global ones and local players, they're marketing aggressively. They're adapting products to suit regional tastes too, think unique flavor combinations, or maybe smaller, more affordable pack sizes for just everyday consumption. And, other significant markets in Asia Pacific, like Japan, South Korea, Australia, they're also showing really robust annual growth, generally over 5%.
Okay, so shifting from Asia's really rapid ascent, let's look southwest. Let's look at another region where milk chocolate demand is also, truly surging, South America. Their market is expected to nearly double, from around $3.4 billion in 2021 to over $6.5 billion by 2033, growing at a pretty healthy rate too, over 5.6% each year. As a 5.676% CAGR.
Yeah, and within South America, Brazil really dominates that growth story. It's set to double its market size, hitting over $3.1 billion by 2033. And it's growing at more than 6.2% annually. That's 6.214%, the highest growth rate in the region. Colombia also shows strong momentum, expanding at over 6.1% each year. So this signals a very robust regional appetite, probably reflecting similar trends to Asia-Pacific rising middle-class incomes, growing desire for these accessible indulgences.
All right, now let's talk about Europe. Traditionally, you think of Europe as the stronghold, right?
Yeah.
Milk chocolate excellence. And it does remain the largest market globally. So while it's growing at a steady, respectable 4.4% annually, that's 4.399% CAGR, going from almost $20 billion in 2021 to over $33 billion by 2033. What's really interesting is where the fastest growth is actually happening within Europe.
You're absolutely right to point that out because while the UK, Germany, and France, they lead in sheer market size, the UK heading towards $6.4 billion, Germany towards $5.5 billion by 2033. Spain is actually showing one of the fastest growth rates in Europe. It's projected to grow at nearly 5.8% annually, 5.769% CAGR. But what's maybe truly fascinating, the real surprise, is that the rest of Europe category, that actually demonstrates the strongest acceleration in the whole region. It's moving from just over $1.1 billion to over $2.5 billion. That's a leading annual growth rate of more than 6.8% in Europe, 6.84% CAGR.
Whoa, okay, that is a surprising outlier. Rest of Europe growing faster than many of the established, chocolate-loving nations. What specifically within that kind of aggregate bucket might be driving such rapid acceleration? Any clues?
Well, the report doesn't break down that specific category further, but it does suggest a couple of things. It could mean that while the very mature markets like Germany and the UK maintain steady, large consumption,
Hmm.
it's perhaps the smaller, maybe rapidly developing economies within that rest of Europe group that are experiencing disproportionate growth as chocolate consumption just becomes more mainstream there. Or maybe it's a reflection of niche premium segments expanding really significantly in these diverse areas. It kind of hints at untapped potential that the larger brands might be eyeing. We also see, solid growth in places like Italy and Russia growing at over 4% and 5% annually, respectively. But then you have somewhere like Luxembourg, which is, well, a much smaller and slower growth market, only about 1.5% CAGR.
Right. Okay, bringing the focus back sort of closer to home, North America, it remains a powerhouse, no surprise there. Its market was valued at $15.4 billion in 2021, projected to hit over $27.3 billion by 2033, growing at a pretty significant 4.9% annually, 4.93% CAGR.
And the United States, of course, leads that charge. Its market is forecast to reach over $17.9 billion by 2033, almost $18 billion. Canada also shows strong growth, expanding at over 5.5% each year. That's a 5.515% CAGR. But what's particularly notable here, maybe another slight surprise, is Mexico. Mexico's growing even faster at nearly 5.8% annually, 5.78% CAGR, making it the fastest growing market in North America. So this isn't just about, established preferences in the US and Canada. It suggests a growing embrace of milk chocolate as an everyday treat or an affordable luxury right across the continent.
Okay, fascinating. From North America, let's shift gears again. Let's look at the Middle East. The market there posted nearly $3 billion, $2.923 billion in 2021. And it's expected to almost double, hitting over $5.5 billion by 2033. That comes with an annual growth rate of almost 5.5%, 5.474% CAGR.
Saudi Arabia leads this region in terms of growth rate. Its revenue is projected to more than double, reflecting a strong annual growth rate of over 6.4%. That's 6.437% CAGR. While, Turkey, UAE, and Egypt also show solid growth, Qatar's growth is more modest, just under 4% annually, 3.932% CAGR. And the rest of the Middle East category grows slowest in this region at around 2%, 2.028%. So it really indicates varied rates of economic development and consumer adoption within the region, some areas clearly accelerating faster than others.
Got it. Okay, finally, our last stop on this world tour, Africa. The milk chocolate market there is expanding from around $1.3 billion in 2021 to over $2 billion by 2033, $2.067 billion. That's at an annual growth rate of just over 3.2%, 3.201% CAGR.
Right. So while Africa currently has the lowest overall regional growth rate that's mentioned in this report, it's crucial to remember that it's still significant expansion in absolute terms. South Africa is slightly ahead within the continent, growing at almost 3.5% annually, 3.484% CAGR, whereas Nigeria, which is a very large market potentially, shows a comparatively lower 2.4% annual growth rate, 2.438% CAGR. So this suggests, very different levels of market maturity and penetration across the continent right now, but there's clearly massive potential for future growth as incomes hopefully rise and distribution networks expand.
Okay, so we've gone around the globe. When we pull all these regional insights back into the big picture, what does this tell us about the global milk chocolate market as a whole? What's the main takeaway?
Well, broadly speaking, this deep dive, it really reveals a truly resilient and expanding global market. It's driven by some pretty powerful, almost universal forces. The source material continually emphasizes that this worldwide growth isn't just about rising populations. That's part of it, sure. But it's also about changing lifestyles, evolving consumer tastes, and that constant demand for premiumness, for innovative flavors, for novelty. So it's not simply more people eating chocolate. It's also about how they're eating it, maybe what kind of chocolate they prefer now, and
Yeah.
what role it plays in their daily lives. Is it a quick indulgence? Is it a gift? A baking ingredient? It's diversifying.
Right. And thinking beyond just the raw numbers and the reasons behind them,
Yeah.
what does the continued, really robust growth of something as seemingly simple as classic as milk chocolate tell us?
Hmm.
That say something about global consumer confidence, maybe? Or perhaps just that enduring human desire for, accessible indulgence?
That's a great question. I think it highlights the power of a product that can adapt and appeal across so many different cultures and income levels. It's pretty universal. It really underscores how businesses are responding or needing to respond to sometimes subtle shifts in consumer behavior.
Hmm.
The demand for convenience, the growing interest in ethical sourcing, the desire for novel experiences, even within a very traditional category like milk chocolate.
Yeah, absolutely. What an incredibly insightful and frankly delicious journey we've had through the global milk chocolate market. We've seen how this seemingly simple pleasure drives billions, literally billions, in sales worldwide. We've seen incredible dynamism in places like Asia Pacific and South America. And also that sustained, evolving growth even in the traditional strongholds like Europe and North America. It's
Yeah.
not static anywhere, really.
Exactly. And considering all this data, maybe a final thought for you to ponder. Think about how these trends, this adaptability, might influence not just the chocolate aisle, but broader consumer goods markets. I mean, if a product as classic as milk chocolate can adapt and grow so much through innovation and responding to evolving tastes, what does that imply for other traditional industries? And maybe, what surprising new indulgent markets might emerge next that we haven't even conceived of yet? Makes you wonder, right?